So, remember my last few remarks that I made, which were talking about the intercepts. If you remember very well, I talked about these few remarks where I said that the intercepts are the points where the graph cuts the axis. Should I say axis? Now this axis may be an x-axis, may be a y-axis, or anything. But the truth of the matter is that the point where the graph cuts the y-axis or the x-axis is what we are calling an intercept. So, what are the two remarks that I gave you before the last session was done? The first one was talking about the x-axis, where I said that all the values of y along the x-axis are equal to 0. Meaning, whenever you are given a function, whenever you are given a graph, and that graph is drawn or not drawn, and then let's say, for instance, it is drawn, and then they ask you to find the values of x, or the coordinates of 2 points that are along the x-axis. Just know that that equation that you have, wherever there are x values, you must, or wherever there are y values, wherever there are y values, you make sure that you equate that y value to 0, or where there is y, you put 0, and then you solve for x. I'm saying that whenever a graph is drawn, let's say, for instance, this is our graph. This is our graph here. And then we have, this is, remember, this is our x-axis, this is our y-axis. Should we have a graph drawn like that with its equation? And then they ask us to find the points, the values of x at that point, as well as that point. How do we find the value of x? Now look here, because it is curved twice and it has a maximum turning point, so we expect the nature of the equation to be y is equal to negative x, because the coefficient on the x with the highest degree is negative. Therefore, that's how we are having it. Could be plus, could be minus, it doesn't matter. And then with some value here, let's say 4. But remember, it can be C, it can be anything. Where I said this number represents the point where the graph cuts the y-axis. Now, if they ask for the values of x here and the values of x here, these 2 points are along the x-axis, so meaning where there's y, just put a 0 and then solve for x. Now, as you can see, the x is raised to power 2, meaning when you solve this question, you are likely to have 2 values of x, meaning one value of x is for that point, another value of x is for another point. So this is what it means. Along the x-axis, the value of y is 0. This is what it means. Secondly, the second assumption, not the second assumption, the second remark that I gave you before the lesson was concluded was talking about along the y-axis. Along the y-axis. So we are saying that the values or the coordinates of the point along the y-axis have the values of x which equal to 0. This point was also exhausted. And how best can you explain this? How best can you explain this? So the best explanation that you can give from here is this. From the same diagram that if this is our diagram, this is the value, this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, and then should we have a graph drawn? Should we have a graph drawn like this? With its standard equation, like I said, y is equal to negative 3x squared minus x plus c, whatever number, plus 2. How can you find the value, or how can you find this coordinate here? So that coordinate is very easy to find. We will just go to point number 2, which is saying, because this point is lying along the y-axis, we know that all the values of x are equal to 0. So meaning, and this is how this number which does not have an x is coming out to be a point where the graph crosses the y-axis. Because here where there's x, if we put a 0, and here where there's the x, we put a 0, you'll find that both is ankalama 0, and then we say y is equal to this number which is constant. So meaning at this point, the coordinate will be x is 0 because it is along the y-axis, comma, the value of y is that term which does not have an x value. So that's how we make use of the x-axis as well as the y-axis in the interpretation or in the analysis of functions. Now, before we go any further, I want you guys to ask questions. I want you guys to ask questions because these questions you are going to ask may be beneficial to you, may be beneficial to me, or may be beneficial to someone seated next to you. So is there anyone with questions from the few explanations that I've given before we go to examples? Okay, so let's see. Let's get started. I may remove whatever is written here so that we can have a fresh start. So, first of all, allow me to write here. Allow me to write here, which I'm going to put as an example. Examples. So, the question says, for each of the following questions, find the x intercepts and the y intercepts. So for each and every question that we have here, we must find the x-intercept as well as the y-intercept. The x-intercept may be 1, but mostly there are 2 because all these values that we have here are squared. It's only the y-intercept which is likely to be 1. So what is our first question? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Out of 8, we solve 3 or 4. Then the other ones are for you. So A, what do we have? A, we have y is equal to, I'll give you a very simple one. 1 plus x and the x minus 2. So in this question, how can we find just the intercepts, not the coordinates? Because remember, a coordinate has got x and y at a single point, but here it's a x-intercept, so meaning on the x-axis, we are just looking for the x values, and along the y-intercept, we are just looking for y values. That's the difference. So here, the y-intercept, how do we find the y-intercept? Remember, we're saying along the y-axis, the values of x is equal to 0. So for the y-intercept, we are going to get our very equation, which is y is equal to, now here, along the y-axis, remember the y-intercept lies on the y-axis. So along the y-axis, the value of x here is 0. Again here, the value of x is 0. Minus 2. Remember, this question is not expanded for us to have a standard equation. So even in the form in which it is, you can substitute the values of x as well as you solve for y. So meaning y will be equal to what we have in the brackets here. It's 0 plus 1, which is 1. And this one is multiplying. What we have in the brackets here is minus 2. Therefore, the y-intercept, the value of y where this graph crosses over the y-axis, is at the point where y is equal to 2. Now, even if this question was expanded, or if you want to go in an expanded way, you multiply 1 and x, we'll have x. You multiply 1 and the minus 2, we'll have a minus 2. You change, you now start multiplying this x and then x. We're going to have positive x squared. Positive x squared. You multiply x and the minus 2, will have a minus 2x. At this point, you can collect the like terms. Remember, this term with highest power will remain. So we'll say y, it's just an expanded version, is equal to x squared, and then this and that, when brought together, we're going to have minus x. Minus this which does not have any x value remains like this. So you see, even at this point, if we were to substitute, even in an expanded version, if we were to substitute where there's x, we put a 0. 0 squared minus 0 minus 2, you'll find that the value of y was to be equal to negative 2. So in the form in which it is, or even if you have an expanded version, the truth of the matter is that the y-intercept still remains negative 2. So that's our y-intercept. Now, what about our x-intercept? So when you say x-intercept, we are talking about the values of x where y is equal to 0. So remember, our equation is y is equal to x. So which one you can use is either ways, but this one is the easiest form. So you have, so the easiest form here, we have 1 plus x. So 1 plus x, we close the bracket, we open another set of bracket where we have x minus 2. Now, because we are looking now for x-intercepts, meaning the value of y is equal to 0. So where there's y, you put 0 is equal to, now remember when we were doing algebra, when you have two brackets like this, which are being equated to 0, it means whatever is in a single bracket is equal to 0, and whatever is in the second bracket is equal to 0. Therefore, we will get this, we equate to 0, we get this one also equal to 0. Now, because here there are two x values, meaning even the graph when drawn is supposed to cut the x-axis at 2 points. So, if you get the first set, here, we're going to say 0 is equal to 1 plus x. And at this point, you have to collect the like terms where this value goes here. We're going to say x is equal to the value of this positive here when it crosses over the equal sign becomes -1. Therefore, should we get another one here and equate to 0, we are going to say 0 is equal to x minus 2. And when you collect the like terms having the -2 going that side, it becomes x is equal to 2. So meaning the point at which this graph is going to cut the x-axis is at 1, where x is equal to -1, and the other point where x is equal to +2. So therefore, we have found the x-intercepts, we have also found the y-intercept. Any question? Any question, guys?
No.
Okay. Let me give you another one, which is a little bit different from the one that we've had, but the concept still remains the same. So B will be, this is our B. Our B is y is equal to, now this question is in its standard form, 2 plus x minus x squared. And we need to understand that this can also be written as y is equal to -x squared plus x plus 2. So how can we find the y-intercept? Finding the y-intercept, wherever there's x, you're going to put a 0. So this will give us y is equal to -0 squared plus, where there's x, we put a 0 because it's along the x-axis, the y-axis. So the value of x is equal to 0, then we have a 2. And remember, whatever is here, even if we add, we subtract, whatever mathematical magic we can do there, the truth of the matter is that it still remains 0. So when you have that, it gives you y is equal to 2. What does it mean? It means this question, this graph is likely to give us a maximum turning point. But we may not get it from this point here. We are getting it from the negative coefficient of the highest degree. We remember we discussed this. So this is the value of y at the point where the graph crosses over the y-axis. What about crossing over the x-axis? We will have the same equation. Y is equal to x negative x squared. Hoping by next week we'll have an iPad with a pencil or is writing. Then here plus 2. So this is what we have. Now, getting the x-axis, getting the x-intercepts, the point where the graph crosses over the x-intercept at 2 points, we are going to make sure that this becomes 0. So now when this becomes 0, we will have negative x squared plus x plus 2. Now this is being equated to 0. How do we find the two values of x? It is at this point where we find the product sum and factor, or we use that formula they call a bus formula. So here the choice remains yours. I do not know which method works best for you. If it's a bus formula, the product Hammond factor, please use that. And you'll find that in both situations, the values of x will be different, meaning you're going to have two different values of x because the same graph cannot cross the x-axis at the same point twice, unless otherwise. So I don't know which method works for you. For me, what works best for me is a product sum and factor, where I would say the product is -1 times 2. So it's -2. The sum is this number which is here is +1. Then the factors of what? We're talking about the factors of the product. So definitely it's just 1 and the 2. And they are already 2. So the only maybe challenge that you have is which one gets to have a negative, which one gets to have a positive. Remember, the product has a minus. So meaning one was a positive, the other one was a negative. Now, what is it that will guide you? You look at the sum. If the sum, this is a point which is very important. If the sum is positive, meaning the bigger number was positive. I hope you got it right. If the sum is positive, on your factors that you pick there, the positive number should be a big one. If our sum was negative, we could have awarded the negative to a bigger number. So with all that said, then we're going to say that x squared. Now where there is a sum here, we're going to put these factors. And which factors are they? You're saying the x now, the -1 goes there, plus 2x. I expect to have questions here. X is equal to, no, 2x, I forgot +2, because we just substituted here with these two, and then you're saying +2 is equal to 0. Any questions just here? Any question? Okay. So we are going now to factorize. These two, we factorize them, and these two, we factorize them. So when you factorize the first two, we'll take out an x, and what remains is x minus 1. Plus, what is common here is 2. When you take out a 2, you're going to have x plus 1. And this must be equated to 0. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Whatever we have here and whatever we have here, they're different. They must be the same. There must be something we've gotten wrong. Yeah, because it's positive, so it's supposed to be that. So that. Where could we have gone wrong? Maybe the question itself is wrong. How did I get wrong? The question is like that. Oh, I see where I got it wrong. I changed the question. You guys did not even remind me. Look at this thing here is negative. So meaning even this part here must be negative. This part here must be negative. This part here must be negative. Therefore, the negative is common. And because we have taken out a negative, this side now here is supposed to be positive. Thank you so much for a quick realization. Now, because what we have in this, the brackets here and what we have here are the same, therefore, you are just going to pick one. You are just going to pick one here, which is x. You're just going to pick one, which is x So put the brackets, x plus 1, the first bracket, then the second bracket is negative x plus 2, the ones that are outside the bracket, and this must be equated to what? To 0. So what have I done here? I want you to pay attention. There's nothing new that I've done. I collected what is outside the bracket. So what is outside the bracket is negative x plus 2, negative x plus 2, and then these two are the same, so I just picked 1 and equate to 0. So if you look at this question where it has landed us, it has taken us back to the first question that we had, where you get whatever is in the first bracket, you equate to 0. You take what is in the second bracket, you equate to 0. And here, on your own, you can verify here and find that x is equal to negative 1, as well as x is equal to positive 2. So these are the 2 points where the graph cuts the x-axis, and the same graph is going to cut the y-axis at that point. Any question? Any questions? So let's have the last one. Let us have the last one. Let us have the last one, which is C. So the C here, saying y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now, if you have done much of the mathematics, you will find that certain steps will be ignored. You will find that certain steps will be skipped. Which steps or which step can you skip here? The y-intercept here, we don't even waste time, just pick the number which does not have an x value with its sign. That is how people who have frequently done mathematics reason. Because we talked about the y-intercept. Therefore, the y-intercept here, without even wasting much of the time, just indicating that it's negative 8. So that you start fighting now for the values of x. Now, even the values of x, we said because it's along the x-axis, the value where the y is, what must be put there is a 0. What must be put there is a 0. And therefore, here we are putting a 0. So let's go back to the same principle now. Product. You can use the bus formula, entirely up to you. So the coefficient here is 1, the coefficient here is 2, the coefficient here is 8, negative. So we'll multiply these two. When we multiply these two, our product is going to be negative 8. The sum, we don't struggle to find it. We just find the value or the coefficient of the term where x has a power negative, has a power 1. So our sum is negative 2. Now, what are the factors? So we have to look at paired factors. First of all, the factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8 itself. So among these that we have, we need to pick only 2. Which one we add, supposed to give us negative 8. When we multiply them, supposed to give us Oh, when we add them, -2, we multiply -8. So the ones that we can pick on are these two. These are the two we pick in. Are they going to have the signs that they have? Check out the sum. Like I indicated, the sum here is negative. Therefore, the negative will be on the bigger number, which is a 4. That's why I've picked on this, which is slightly different from the one we're dealing with. The one we're dealing with, the sum was positive. That's why we kept the positive as a bigger number. So here, what do you have? Allow me to demarcate this and ask you attention to go this side. So we have y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. Now, if you look here, we are saying that where there is this term, we are going to substitute the term with these two. And here we are saying the 4 as a negative. So we are saying 0 is equal to x squared. We'll have this term, we have this number, which is positive 2, having an x, because the term that we are replacing here has got also an x. So the next one is -4. So -4 will also have an x. And this must be equated or must be taken out, subtract an 8. From here, we do now a double factorization. We factorize here, also factorize there. And therefore, keeping a 0 here is equal to the first point when we factorize here, you can see that x is common. So we take out an x, what remains is x plus 2. Those who are very fast, the point where I've reached, you can even stop looking at whatever presentation I have, you can even solve it. The second point, what we have as a common thing is a negative. And when you factorize here, what is remaining is x plus 2. And right from here, we can see that what is inside of these brackets is the same as that. So that should be your target, even as you proceed with your computation. Therefore, you pick only one bracket. You can start with the things in the bracket, or you can first collect what is outside. It is entirely up to you. So first I've written what is inside the bracket. I've just picked one without having any sign, because these numbers outside are multiplying what is inside the bracket. That's why I've not put anything here, which indicates that they are multiplying. Then you collect what is outside, which have got x minus 4. Again, it's at that point where I was saying, you get whatever is in here, you equate to 0, you get whatever is here, you equate to 0. Now, the easiest here for those that have done mathematics, you just look at whatever is here, whatever is here, whatever is here in most cases. Both of them are positive, therefore the answer will be negative. Or you look at here, x is positive and the number is negative. So meaning when you equate this to 0, you'll find that the 4 becomes positive, because this will have to cross over the equal sign, and this is how your answers will be. Questions, otherwise I've exhausted my points, and this is how you can find the x-intercepts as well as y-intercepts. Questions? You guys don't want to ask questions? Okay, then I'll have to send you work.